Imagine being a fish in the ocean and being annoyed by the water. What we human beings do is that we are in this thing called life without ever truly realizing that it is a self inside of us that is in this thing called life. So, what we tend to do is to see ourselves as this one broad stroke, called you, without investing any time or energy in getting to know what that means. And without getting to know what that means, we wind up at war with ourselves. We wind up being the fish in the ocean who's irritated with the stuff that bubbles up as us without realizing that that's who we are, not the stuff, but the range of ourselves within is how we navigate the world outside. And so we must come to know and understand the range of self that lives inside. Then we will understand every single challenge and, more importantly, the undeniable power that lives inside of us. The framework that is in the little book of Big Lies and is the gift that my own personal awareness gave to me. If you think about your interior self as having these three ranges, and one is the surviving self, always in worry, doubt, and fear, ready for war, othering, anger, resentment, jealousy, all of those feelings live in the surviving self. And that self is always in a state of trying to survive the moment, trying to survive the ego, trying to survive the fears. The other range of self up from the surviving self is the thriving self. The thriving self is the part of us that actually aligns with the frontal cortex of the brain. The surviving self aligns with the amygdala and the reptilian brain. The thriving self is the reason we can be rational, that we can think and imagine. That's what the neocortex does. It allows us to imagine, to have self-agency, to have the ability to think higher thoughts and make executive decisions. And then the third is the infinite self. And the infinite self is the dust of the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it, that is undeniably the essence of our being. And when you understand that, then you can make the decision to get really curious about who you truly are, and then begin to see yourself when you are in survival mode, see yourself when you are in the infinite, and do more of that. Use the thriving self to help you see both sides of you, and then intentionally strengthen the third part of you so that, they're working, all three work in harmony. Because you need that part of self that, is always watching its environment to make sure you're safe. My personal wellness, if we go back to the fish, right? My personal wellness is the water I swim in, right? If I'm not taking care of my personal wellness, then I'm going to be gasping for air. I'm going to be in trouble ultimately. So how do I make both possible? Well, I truly know that nothing in my life gets done without me. And so I have to add myself to my list of priorities. When you add yourself to your list of priorities, because you really get that you have been given this life, it is very short. And for you to die fully alive and that's my aim, to die fully alive, then I must make sure that I am giving the time and attention needed for me to meet that goal. So it is, again, going back to, we come here whole, and then this life journey disrupts our idea of ourselves. And so many people then live a life that is disconnected from themselves because they never knew that they could go back or go within and reclaim their wholeness. And so when we understand that the self is not you and me, the self is us in a conscious partnership with with the brilliance and the intelligence of the cosmos that is wiring this whole thing. So when I say yes to the self, I'm saying yes to my unique fingerprint. I want to make sure that this fingerprint that I was given, that nobody else was given, that I make sure I do everything I can to fulfill the engineer's use of me, design of me.